Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's or woman's character, give him or her power. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today revolves around post-general election. We would speak on what happened, why did it happen, how did it happen, what will happen, and what lies ahead. To discuss all this and more, we've invited 4 guests to our studios this evening as well. Let me quickly introduce them to you. Joining us this evening on the show is Dr. Anil Jayantha, nationalist candidate at the general election, who contested from the Jatika Jana Balavega. Also joining us tonight on the show is Rajit Kiri Tendakon, former governor of the central bank, representing the SJB, the Samag Jana Balavega. Joining us tonight on the show is also attorney at law Gamini Pereira, senior legal consultant, representing the Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna, as well as Dr. Ajanta Pereira, a nationalist candidate at the general election from the United National Party. Let's start off tonight's show with Dr. Ajanta Pereira, candidate at the general election who contested from the Colombo district, representing the UNP. Dr. Ajanta, interestingly, this is not the first time that Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that he's leaving the post of party leader. We've seen this happening since 2011, since committees were established by the UNP leadership saying that he would step down from the post of party leader. Is this a farce, or is Ranil Wickremesinghe serious about leaving the UNP now?
Well, the reason why he has to be always thinking about whether he would be leaving or not lies in the fact that he is a real leader. We really appreciate the knowledge, the wisdom he has. Though he may not be a charismatic leader, but he is nevertheless a leader who is full of wisdom. And I think even for me personally, during the last general election, we learnt a lot from him. So I believe as much as he might be wanting to step out, step down, people who are around him always encourage him to stay. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he has been staying. So it's not like he's forcing himself to stay. It's not like that. It's just that the people around, even right now, there are many people who would say to him, stay, because we believe he's a real leader. And in the fact that he is not a person who would go to the grassroots level and would try to win loads of votes by smiling or in the normal way, but he has a long vision, and that vision has helped the United National Party to go a long way, and we have to accept that.
That vision helped the UNP to gain just above 2% of the eligible votes cast at the last general election. Is that leadership?
Well, the thing is, there were many
leadership taking into.
Well, there were so many things that were happening just before the elections. I mean, we know about the split, then we know about the rumors that were spread, then we know also about how the other sides went to the grassroots level and they were convincing people that we were having deals with the government, and they were spreading all sorts of rumors. And the people were utterly confused because they had 2 symbols to play with. They had a telephone, they had an elephant. So people were told whether you put your cross in front of the elephant or whether you put your cross in front of the telephone, both are the same. And that's what people were saying to the grassroots level. So the time was very short and people were utterly confused. And I think this was an election. It was a real trial election. And I think we did our level best. Everyone did their level best. And whatever the outcome may be, we know that we can correct ourselves and we still have a future ahead of us.
Dr. Ajanta, do you have the UNP membership?
Yes, I do have the membership, of course.
Right. So you have joined the UNP as a new individual, as a new member. Am I right?
Yes, true.
Right. You know that Ranil Wickremesinghe has been the party leader for the last 26 years, and he's
I know.
The only leader of the UNP who has been for such a prolonged time period within the party as well. Are you aware?
Yes.
And you're also aware under his leadership, the UNP has suffered at least 30 humiliating defeats at elections back to back.
Well, the thing is, the leadership is not about, elections are not always about winning. It's about the integrity of the party and it's about the party itself. We have to realize United National Party is only one of that kind. It's the most ancient party, it's a historic party, it's a party that brought us freedom, it's a party that has very severe, we have very set standards, we have a very good foundation, and I believe that we would not budge, we would not move here and there. So I'm very happy with that, and I think we need good parties like that in the country. And with a little bit of change, with a little bit of determination, we know exactly where we've gone wrong now. We are actually critically looking at ourselves, and it's a great.
What went wrong?
Well, the basic difference between what we understood is that at the grassroots level, you see the people, especially the members of the United National Party at the grassroots level, they were expecting much more contact between the leadership and the people who are actually contesting to come to them and to be more closer to them.
And
we felt that
Ranil
there was a
Wickremesinghe is
little
not
bit
the
of a
leader
gap.
who could lead the
Sorry?
party. Henceforth, Ranil Wickremesinghe is not the leader who
Well,
can lead the party because he does not go to the
leaders
grassroots.
come in different ways. You see, some of the leaders are real visionaries. They know exactly where the country should go. And there are other charismatic leaders who go and touch the people, give a big hug and smile and put a
Whatever it is,
little tap
Dr.
and they get their votes.
Whatever it is, Dr. Ajanta, the UNP suffered one of the most humiliating defeats at the last election.
Yeah, but we think of
And
it
as
as
a result-
a comeback, a chance for comeback.
Anyway, only time would tell whether the UNP will ever have a comeback in the near future as far as elections are concerned. I switch my attention now to Kirti Tennakoon, former governor of the Central Bank, former governor of the Central Province. He's also representing the Samuk Jana Balavege today on the show. Kirti, interestingly, you just heard Dr. Ajanta's statement about Ranil Wickremesinghe as a UNP leader and how important it is for him to be the leader, and it's about vision and pragmatic leadership that Ranil Wickremesinghe has brought into play. Do you agree with this?
Ranil Wickremesinghe was is the leader of the UNP for something like 25 years, 8 months and 23 days. And he was assumed duties as the leader of the UNP in 1994, November 8th. And this is the only leader who was not managed to go to the top post, either the presidency or the head of the state position. So that itself tells a story. The UNP was established with a cause. That particular cause was disturbed throughout the leadership of Ranil Wickremesinghe. Starting from 1994, we saw he was defeating in 1999. At that, just after that presidential election in 1994, 11 members of the UNP, former ministers, including Sara Thamunugama, Mr. Vimal Wickremesinghe from Ahaliyagoda, Sirisena Kure, and all these people were demanding Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe to step down. From that particular day, there were at least 36 parliamentarians left the UNP just because he was not managed the party structure. He was not allowing the democratic practices which was exercised throughout the history of UNP. And whenever there was a pressure to real democratic practices coming to act in the UNP, he played it throughout. So that finally played the most humiliated defeat for a main political party in Sri Lankan history.
So let's talk about...
Saying that, Ashur, to answer Mrs. Ajanta Pereira's statement, I mean, how can you say Ranil Wickremesinghe is a man with the wisdom? If he is a man with the wisdom, he could foresee the situation that they are going to faced the most humiliated defeat in history for the UNP.
Right,
He
let's
has
talk
not
about-
foreseen.
Let- let-
I
let-
mean, how can we say that he is a man with the wisdom?
So let's talk about the 54 seats that were secured by the Samgujana Balvega at the
50
last
54, yeah.
54 seats at the last election that was recently concluded. Does the SJB in any way think that this is a victory compared to the two-thirds majority that was won by the ruling SLPP at the last election?
I mean, the SJP was facing a very big challenge at its very beginning. And we know what happened in the presidential elections. And this party was established only 3 months before the elections. And we had a COVID period, and at least we was not able to campaign. And this is a political party, a main political party, facing a general election just after establishing it within 2 months. And this challenge was never a cause for the SLFP in 1952. It was not happened to Podujana Peramuna for that matter. They had something like almost 2 years to face the local council elections, and they had enough time to prepare for a presidential election. Then they came for the parliamentary election. The methods, the mechanisms, the operational systems for a parliamentary election is totally different, and it needs so much of resources, it needs so much of expertise, it needs so much of organizing capacities when you go to elections in island-wide election with 22 electoral districts.
No, but does the SJB in any way
Just
think that this is
let me finish this. I mean, within very short period of time, we faced the challenge, and we almost had the election result, which was repeated in 2010. And that particular time, I mean, the only 56
there were 60
seats were
60 seats
no,
for
50,
the
no, it was 56 seats plus another 5, which makes 61 at that particular period. Right. Actually, our real estimate, we might able to reach the point somewhere around 60, and we fell a bit short out of that. But no one predicted this sort of the election result for sure. Even Basil Rajapaksa was predicting somewhere around 135. The voter turnout was bit lower when comparing to the previous elections. When we know that electoral levels or the district levels, when low voter turnout comes into play, this sort of extreme the election result can happen, and that has happened. I mean, this is nothing new in Sri Lankan history. We have seen it so many times. When the UNP was governing in 1989, I think, I mean, at that particular time, mighty UNP was faced with a huge challenge of the SLFP. Only something like 10-12 people, including Maitripala Sirisena, Jairaj Pranandapulle, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Richard Patirana,
Ranil
Amarasiri
Wickremesinghe.
Dodanggoda, all these people.
You forgot Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Sorry?
You forgot Ranil Wickremesinghe.
No, I'm talking about the SLFP who faced the mighty UNP
At that
who was governing that particular thing. But within no time, they managed to deliver a real opposition for the mighty UNP. So that's what I'm saying here. The numbers are, when it comes to the real politics, numbers are not the I mean, when you're having numbers, that's good, but here it is not the most important part.
Anyway,
whether or not you can deliver on political terms is what it needs, and we are having that strength for sure.
Thanks a lot, Keith Itheniko, former governor of the Central Province, tonight representing Face the Nation as a representative of the Samgujana Balvega. I now move my attention to Dr. Anil Jayantha, nationalist candidate at the general election. He did vie for a seat from the JJB or the Jatika Jana Balvega at the last election. Humiliating defeat once again, isn't it, for the JJB, Dr. Anil Jayantha? It was at 3% at the last at the last presidential election. That meant that the JVP would have received, along with the JGB, at least 6 seats in parliament. However, now that 3% has reduced to 3 seats in parliament. How do you view this defeat now, Dr. Anil Jayanta?
In fact, so you may interpret it in a way based on the facts that is there. Of course, from our side as well, we are not happy with the result that we got. Actually, we expected more than that. But we should not forget about the context within which this particular general election was conducted and the campaign was conducted and all those things. I would like to highlight certain aspects. Number one, from our side as Jatika Jana Balawegaya, we formed this broader political platform to tell the general public that if you really want to have a society where everyone can live with financial freedom and high quality life and dignified life, actually we need to change the structure of this politics and economic management. So we were trying hard to bring this message, pass this message to the general public. With the limited resources and the capacity that we had, I think we did our job very well, because we were able to reach even grassroots level, and our door-to-door campaign was very successful compared to the past. New people also joined because they were not with us even in the last presidential election. So we are happy with the campaign, we did it. But from the other side, we should not forget the fact that we happen to face the humiliating or in a way malicious and smear campaign against us. So we were campaigning to tell the general public how best the governance should be changed. But on the other side, they were not only carrying out their political propaganda, they were carrying out smear, malicious campaign against us.
But Dr. Anil Jayanta, ultimately,
yes,
it's very evident that the people don't want a third force in the country. That's what was evident.
No, that is
last election.
Okay. That is what I was just explaining. So that is a mere statement. So without having any evidence, because we do not know. So what I'm just telling you the context or the facts and the evidence available. So provided that if it were something where we had broad or large opportunities and had a very good platform for political discourses, to some extent we may argue. That is what I was just explaining.
Let's get into bolts and nuts very quickly. Example, Sunil Handunetti,
yes,
who contested from the Mathura district, who has been named as a great politician even by the government and the then opposition at that time, lost his parliamentary seat this time around. And that very well shows that people don't want him in parliament.
That's what I was just coming. We did our part, and we did all those things within such a context, because some other things are there later I'll explain. But of course, I agree with you. Finally, people have not responded positively to our message. Why? We need to find information, because we can make bold statements saying that and this.
But can I ask you a question very quickly? Do you think if the JVP did contest alone, without going along with the JJB tagline, the symbol that you all had, do you think the JP would have had a better chance of gaining more votes at the last election?
No, I can't say about anything, because I can't say anything about that did not happen in the past, because the history, we can't say, we can make statement, but that statement does not have any bearings. So sometimes I might say yes or no.
People don't even know the symbol that you all were contesting.
To some extent, that is what, we were not able to reach to all the level, grassroots, there were instances, of course, some people didn't know our symbol.
That shows that the advisors who advised the JJB did not do a good job.
Not really. It is not simply just canvassing or bringing the message to the general public about the symbol or any other thing. So this is a very broad force. So what we wanted was not to just grab power or just grab one or two additional seats in this particular election, to have the ever best broader political front to defeat this corrupt regime or the wrong political and economic practice. That is what our target. That is like.
But Dr. Amjad, I can give you a classic example. You have been on this show
Yes.
a couple of times before the general election.
Yes.
And we happened to get your tagline as NPP at that time.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to see the JJB name when the election results were being announced. And then I was trying to figure out, is NPP a part of the JJB or the JJB part of the NPP? Because we have people who came here on the very show and said that they are part of the NPP. Now I'm trying to figure out, you all got the entire slogan or entire symbol mixed up.
Yeah, it is like looks to be confusing, but it's not confusing really. In English, once it is translated, it is National People's Power. But like most of the time in Sri Lanka, so everyone just speaks like Jatika Janabalawege was the familiar term. So then even in the election, the commissioner, it has been registered as Jatika Janabalawege.
Now, is it the NPP or the JJB?
So actually, if you take the English translation, it is National People's Power, but for the political campaign or from political parties concerned, it is Jatika Janabalawege.
So is it the same party that Mahesh Seranayake?
No. It's a different. It's a confusion. Mahesh Seranayake also contested under a party which is almost similar to the same name, NPP, but it is not National People's Power. When we take the abbreviation, the acronym, it is also NPP. So then it is easy for us to just go to the general public with Jatika Janabalawege, no matter whether it is just pronounced in English and Sinhala. So Jatika Janabalawege is well known. Just let me just conclude one thing. And finally, as you ask, how people reacted. Yes, of course, people have not responded positively. So this may be due to they have not recognized us as the force at this particular time to give such a mandate. Or at the same time, subject to the prevailing conditions and the context that I was explaining, people may have been deceived to great extent in Sri Lanka. What is happening is identity politics against the national politics. It is easy in Sri Lankan context through media and other campaign to take away them through emotions, egos and all these things. So take this particular example. In the case of the Kurunagala, that archaeological site was demolished. So basically the party SLPP, Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, who won this election, was basically campaigning that they were standing on nationalism and to protect national resources and all those things. But what happened? Mayor and another minister, the ex-minister, even now the Prime Minister, even the President, were finally justifying that demolition. But what I'm just telling, just 1 minute, finally, if you are an ordinary person and having a kind of a rational argument, so you could have really opposed to that particular act, but people didn't. So that is what I'm telling, it is not something wrong with general public. People can be deceived. So to great extent, that may have happened, but we are happy that we have not given up this particular struggle. We will in touch with general public, bring our message to general public and request them to join hand with us to create a very broad political force in future.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Rasul, can I pin one particular
I will come back to it after this round is over, Kirti, for sure. I want to now switch to Attorney at Law Gamini Pereira, Senior Legal Consultant, representing today Face the Nation as an individual from the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. How do you view the victory for the SLPP? There is a quote or a saying that with great power comes great responsibility. What would be in the top agenda of the SLPP now? Is it changing the constitution? What would be in the top agenda?
Well, number one of the priority list is the vista of prosperity, which is presented by the president at the election, the presidential election. That has to be gone further. To this, the SLPP solicit from the people the power. The 2/3 is to go ahead with this manifesto given by, placed by the president. And then that has been already proved by the last 8 months, and especially the country situation day by day shown that it is going to the proper path and proper way. That is why the party seek the people's mandate, and the general public, the most of the voters understood the situation, and they thought that the president and the leadership of his presidency gain something for the people. That is why they trust the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, and thereby they have selected 145 candidates to the parliament, and now of course we know that is 2/3.
So there are a few other parties who are joining.
Few other parties joined, but they were under the same roof earlier as well, and therefore this is the mandate of the people. The people recognize who are the real leaders. Who are the real leaders? Now we talk about different type of leaders, but the only issue is here whether the people recognize the leadership. People recognize who can protect the people, give the security to the nation, and also who can develop the country to certain level, eliminate the poverty, develop the agriculture, and also the stability of the financial sector and the monetary policies and all these things.
Do you think, Gamini, that now, as there is a 2/3 majority for the government in play, that is the SLPP, would they change the 19th Amendment of the Constitution, which says very clearly that a dual citizen cannot hold the post of parliamentarian in the Sri Lankan Parliament, and change this clause and give way for Basil Rajapaksa to come in as a parliamentarian in the near future?
It's a very good question. Now, I must say the 2/3 majority is not just to get him into the parliament. That is not the case. But
now, would that happen?
That's why I want to explain a little bit. Now, you see, when President Mahinda Rajapaksa defeated by Maithripala Sirisena, President Maithripala Sirisena, then who developed this context? Who developed the party? Who organized the things? Thereafter, the elections, the coming to power, gaining the power to president, who was behind the scene? We all know, well-known person is Basil Rajapaksa. So, if he can produce a president to this country who is a proper true leader, if he can produce 2/3 of the majority of the parliament, why he cannot come to the parliament? Because of 2/3, because of the dual citizens. So if it is necessary, I propose that has to be done, but that is not the priority. There are many things. There are many things.
But
I say that can be justified.
But Gamini, you are very well aware that when Basil Rajapaksa was appointed, as the head of the presidential task force to combat COVID-19. Many parties like the SJB, the JJB, and even the UNP were against this move. Why? Because he was from a political party and there was an election that was summoned at that time. And now you are very well saying that he has been behind the political campaign of the SLPP. So this very well shows the ruling party was at a definite advantage during a time of a crisis.
No, that is not the case. Now, if that is the case, the presidents and the cabinet also there. So those are the things that you cannot change. But you know, why don't you think? Why don't you see the results of that committee? What they have gained for the country? How they have defeated the COVID pandemic? So those things has to be considered. Similarly,
So
you know,
hypothetically,
but that is you know, someone has to be come forward. Someone
so
has to be come forward.
hypothetically, let's say Basil Rajapaksa comes into parliament. So then you have Gotabaya Rajapaksa as the president. You have Mahinda Rajapaksa as the prime minister. Basil Rajapaksa would definitely get a ministerial post. Chamal Rajapaksa would definitely get a ministerial post at the next cabinet that would be announced on the 12th. Sachendra Rajapaksa, Namal Rajapaksa and Nipuna Ranawaka. So there are 7 members from the same family, and it seems like the family rule
Yes.
is taking
Now
place
the
once again in the
people have voted. I mean,
Now that is the case. That is the case. Number one, all these persons that you have named, from prime minister to the Nipuna Ranawaka, whoever, right? So everybody were either top of the list, top of the electoral district, or they were in somewhere in the 2 or 3. So that is the people wish. Now why this discrimination? If they are the people that people can keep trust, let them to work.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Let
a lot.
them to work.
Thanks a lot, Attorney at Law Gamini Pereira, a senior legal consultant representing the SLPP today on Face the Nation. I have a lot of thoughts, but today I will let the panelists make their submissions. Let me open the floor for questions from our journalists. On to my immediate left is Nadim Majid, and on to my far left is John Fernando. Let's start off with John.
Thank you, Shamir. Connecting my question to your statement, Mr. Gamini, if those are the people that the general public want, let them work. Mr. Kirti, do you think the people made the right choice?
I mean, the people's choice is very clear. UNP is defeated, the most humiliated defeat from the UNP's establishment. In the other hand, JAVP, which had 6 oppositions in the MPs in the previous parliament, has reduced it to 3. And either we were not doing exceptionally well, even though we just registered and all that, all the negative factors, disadvantages were with us, but even we was not doing well. And in the other hand, we saw that the government is getting 2/3, and it's very clear. I mean, we can justify this, we can give, I mean, thousands of reasons, but bold and clear, this is the reality. And so people have spoken really loud. And now, here, what is our challenge? And what is the government's, the agenda for what they have promised? Number one, they came into power telling bunch of lies, I'll say. All these issues, making MCC, talking about the culture, I mean what happened with the Pasku Prahara, and thousands of issues. So they have to deliver now. They are having executive powers, they are having 2/3, they are having everything what they have demanded. And from the independence, there's no government had such powers when it comes to the present Gotabaya Mahinda Rajapaksa government here. And they can do whatever they want. When it comes to Mr. Basil Rajapaksa's dual citizenship issue, I think, to be frank, we know that it is going to happen, and it is one of the most prioritized issues for the party. Personally, what I feel is that if someone is handling everything out of the system, it's better take him into the system and let him to have a ministerial portfolio and do it inside the parliament.
And
then only the people, the JVP, ourselves, the TNA, the Muslim Congress, all these political parties can question it. So that is the good part. Then the other issues, they were talking about the electoral reforms. They were talking about the constitutional reforms. They were promising the cost of living. There was thousands of promises. I'm not talking about canned fish and all that, dal and all that, but there's thousands of promises. Now they have to deliver. In the other hand, we are having a very strong opposition. The numbers, it matters, but here we are having less numbers. We will be fascinated if we had more numbers with us, behind us, but it is not the case. People.
Mr. Kirti, how can you elaborate the point? You have a strong opposition. We know for democracy to prevail, there should be a strong opposition in
I was telling in 1989, only 13 people who fought against the mighty UNP at that particular period. Maitripala Sirisena, Jairaj Pranantapule, Vasudeva Nanayakara, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Dinesh Gunawardena, all these people had marked their voice, marked their caliber, marked their voice inside the parliament and outside the parliament. And that's why they were managed in 1994 to take into the power under the leadership of Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga. That sort of a parliament we are having with the opposition, with our numbers. Our party, even though we are very seasoned people, we are having very experienced politicians, we are having new blood.
So
we are having committed, organized people. We are having the people who changed.
Are you confident that the Samagi Jana Balawega,
the Rajapaksa regime in 2015?
Are you confident that the Samagi Jana Balawega can win in one of the provincial councils for which the elections should be around the corner?
Let's face the reality. Even in 2005 to 2015, dragging elections is one of the methods, the mechanisms used to defeat or weaken the opposition. And that particular
will you be able to put on a strong performance?
Will continue for sure.
But here, in spite of that, will you be able to do it?
After defeating a humiliated defeat for the opposition in between 2010 to 2014. In 2014, if my memory is correct, it was on September, October, the UO provincial elections. Right? It was every single election was defeated. But here, within 2 months, we managed to grab the power. We managed to work it out. Because we had a system, there were few organizations, Sobita Teros movement, the civil organizations, the individual political parties, everyone came in.
So now, you say that you have a strong opposition with experienced politicians and new blood and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Do you feel that, what do you think are the priorities now for the opposition?
Number one, democracy. The country will face.
But what are the real if you have to break it down? Like, for example, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna is very clear on what they want to do, what they want to accomplish. They want, and they've been given a mandate by the people as well. Definitely. For constitutional amendment. What form, what they will replace it with, we still don't know. Hopefully, they will inform us at some point in the very near future. And they will then go on the development drive to achieve the President's Vistas of Splendor manifesto. On your side, on the Samagi Jana Balawega side, being the main opposition party now, what is your primary duty?
Democracy, I think, I mean, when,
But when
we
you say democracy, what
when
is
we
it?
comparing 2005 to 2015 era, wherever, whenever the Rajapakshas and this sort of
Kirti, I'm looking
comes into
for specific answers. Like, for example, what will you do with regard to the 19th Amendment?
I'll come into that. Number one, there's a suppression with the ideas now. The media freedom might be a very big challenge. Number two, freedom of association will have a definite say, and the opposition and the individuals, the organizations, civil organizations might have to work with that. When it comes to the 19th Amendment, we stood for the 19th Amendment. Maitripala Sirisena and the UNP at that particular time created it. There was commissions established under that, and which has delivered. I mean, just think of about this particular election. If there's no independent election commission, what sort of a challenge will the country will have in that sort of circumstance?
Kirti, I'll come back to
Definitely,
you.
we
We
will
have-
stand
we
for
have,
the 19th Amendment.
yeah.
We will stand for the independence
Yeah,
of
we have limited time, so I actually want to
I think, just give me a
ask-
second. Let's
to ask
pass over
Dr.
to Dr.
Ajanta.
Ajanta what
Yeah.
she has to say, and then go to.
I'm rather disappointed because basically, if you remember, during the COVID-19, all the political parties wanted to be part and parcel of the committee that was looking after the sickness. But the president definitely said no. They will handle the whole situation by themselves. So if you really look at it now you're saying we've done well. So basically what you're saying is we didn't allow you to be part and parcel of it. We didn't allow you to show your colors. We didn't allow you to work hard with us. And now we have done well. And then in fact the president was going round during the election campaign. He was going round and telling the people we've done well with the COVID-19.
But-
we will look after it.
But Dr.
So I
Ajanta,
think-
but Dr. Ajanta, as
Nadeem,
the
Nadeem,
elected
Nadeem.
government, they don't have an obligation to get the other parties involved, do they?
Why not?
They're the elected
Why not?
government.
This was a disaster management, and we know very well
But if they
during
were
a disaster
confident in their
management.
ability to manage it, and if they have managed it, then kudos to
No,
them,
this
right?
is democracy. You need to allow the other parties also to give their opinion, and I think the others would
But
agree.
I think
Then
the
the
other
second
parties
thing,
also gave their opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
we heard
Yeah.
the opinions
Opinion
of Mr.
accepted.
Ranil Wickremesinghe, we heard the opinions of Mr. Sajid Premadasa as
okay,
well.
the second thing is that he is saying just to get Mr. Basil Rajapaksa in because he's a good guy, he's a capable guy. He doesn't mind about
what
the
I did
19th
was, I mean,
Amendment.
I put it in a
But,
sarcastic
how
manner,
can
right?
you say?
I mean,
How can you say that with the 19th Amendment you're suppressing the
No,
freedom
what I said, the government has given the
19th
uttermost
Amendment has
priority
brought?
for that.
No, now
What I
So
am
how
telling
can
is
you-
that
how
they
can
are
you
giving
talk
the
about
uttermost
freedom?
priority for that.
Both the
I am putting it in a
speakers are-
sarcastic manner.
both the speakers
I'm not
are
for that.
priorities in the bringing Mr. Basil Rajapaksa into the parliament. But I say that is not the priority. If that is happen, we welcome.
So we have
welcome.
a
That's all.
question from a viewer.
Yes.
Gamini. So it's directed at you. So after saying after saying not to use his picture to promote the candidates, the president did a very active political campaign at the last general election. The president is the president after all. He should have not been biased towards any political party. Why did the president be biased towards the SLPP at the last election?
Now he says not to use his pictures. That's correct. But president is a part and parcel of SLPP, and he is the leader. He is seeking the people's mandates, as I earlier said, for the vista of prosperity and splendor. So, without going to solicit the support of the people by himself, how can he gain this political, representation? That he has to do that. Otherwise, when Mr. Maitripala Sirisena, the president, what happened? He just put a candidate and then he made a statement against him.
But many
Do you
political
believe that
analysts-
kind of thing has to be done?
But many political analysts believe that President Sirisena's mistake was to take the post of SLFP leadership when he was the leader of the country, the president of the country, and that was the first point in which the president at that time made his first mistake by gaining the SLFP leadership at that time.
Of course, but again,
and you can see that happening with
now
Gotabaya
here,
Rajapaksa.
Let me clear one thing.
Here, Mr.
In
Gotabaya,
2015 August election, the parliamentary election, Mr. Maitripala Sirisena, the president, did not campaign for any political party. And this the first time, that was the first time in Sri Lankan history, a president did not campaign for a political party.
The president's
he did the other
statement
way
before
around.
the
He did the
election,
other
was
way
that
around
campaigning
to his
or not?
own party.
Sorry?
The president's statement, the president's televised national address before the election, was that campaigning or not?
I mean, that's politics, right?
But that was campaigning, right?
Here, when it comes to the
president
election
went
campaigning,
on
there
air
are two aspects of it.
on all of the
I mean,
national
you can, while
television.
being the president, you cannot. I mean, you can. No
But
one
Keith,
can
you just
stop a
said he
president
didn't
doing
campaign,
politics.
but he
That's
did.
politics. But here,
He campaigned, right?
He did not campaign for a political party. That's the
He
first time
campaigned,
it
he
happened.
did otherwise.
for a-
He campaigned against a political
Against
party.
the-
but he was the
Against the
leader of
party.
that particular
He has
party,
to be-
and
then
the
he has to be
94
independent.
seats were ensured for the United that particular alliance under Maitripala Sirisena's leadership. Don't forget that he was the leader at that particular alliance at that particular.
He was he then like carrying out whose bidding was he carrying out when he was campaigning against?
he
political
said
coup?
I will not campaign, and he did not campaign.
He
The
campaigned
statement or the address to the nation is a different thing.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I think I want to drag my attention to Gamini on this, what Keith said. He said, answering a question of Nadeem, he said that the top priority would be democracy, media freedom would be suppressed under this government. It's way too early to say
Freedom of
whether
association.
government and the freedom of association. It's way too early to say that this government is going to be on that same track following the 2010 presidential election. So it's way too early. But the 3 points that he brought forward were the 3 points I think which were the main issues subsequent to the 2010 presidential elections, or even before that.
I understand. Now, democracy, there is no any doubt about that. The democracy must be prevailed. That has to be done. That is why the people could vote for a new faces either. Now, the earlier parliament, we know, even for children cannot be at the public area and see the parliament, because that kind of parliament was there. But here in this parliament we can see new faces, sometimes scholars, and also the political leaders, political experienced people who elected here. So therefore the democracy is there before, than before. That's I can say. And then number two, as you said,
This is not what I said, this is what Keith said.
Yeah.
Media freedom and then freedom
media
of association.
Now you can see the following months, there is no any problem to the media. There is no any, any kind of situations we found against the
people
media.
like Lasandra Vikramatunga was murdered
That is somewhere in back.
2009.
But still, those are in the courts. Those are not yet finalized.
But it happened
what
during-
I say,
But
during the
Gamini,
period,
there are cases, you said that there are scholars in parliament, but from the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, you also have people, you said, let's say, cases that have been finalized. There are people who have been convicted, there are people who have vandalized public property, there are people who have been sort of convicted and then somewhat acquitted, then let out on appeal. There are plenty of such characters as well that have come in.
I don't think that it is correct. Can you name?
From the Ratnapura district, let's say,
Ratnapura.
convicted at the High Court,
Yes, it should.
sentenced to death.
Now, you know,
Will be taking oaths
that
as
is
an MP.
from the High Court. In this country and every country, there are further forum, higher forum. Why for that? Why those forum? If there is anything wrong in the in the lower courts that you can go to the
You don't
higher
think that
forum.
it's a travesty of justice that a judge gives a conviction, gives you are guilty.
Yes.
After the judge says you are guilty, after you can appeal, you have the right to appeal, but
Yes.
you have been found to be guilty.
Still,
Right.
Still, now I will tell you.
Appeal and acquittal are two different things.
This is a misunderstanding. This
Appeal
is a
and acquittal are two
Let me
different
to
things.
explain this.
So you're saying that High Court judges are unable,
No.
are not
Let
able
me to explain. Being a
give
lawyer, I think I
sentences?
can explain you better. I mean, this must be known by the people. Now, when in this country or in anywhere in the world, there are many instances that the higher court set aside the lower court's decision. I don't say that the judges are wrong. Judges can do mistakes.
But Gami, I must also mention this,
just one
that
second.
there are many instances in this country where people who are convicted on other offences at High Court level,
Yes.
who
And
are then who thereafter they just disappear into the web of the prison network. They don't have the same access to privilege and resources that the VIPs in this country do, so they languish in prison. Meanwhile, people who have been convicted
Yes.
still manage to get into parliament. I mean, that's a travesty of justice,
let me
isn't it?
explain this. Now, at the time, you are talking about one member of the Ratnapura district, right? The person who has given his nomination, he is not a convictor. That is number one. He is qualified person. Then number two, before he was elected, he was convicted. Having all these, the people of this country selected him. Don't forget that. The people of Ratnapura district selected him, giving the majority. Right? That is number one. That is people's choice. Okay, well, let's see. We
So you're saying that
So
the
you're
people's
saying
choice
100,000
trumps rule of
preferential
law.
votes. Are you saying 100,000 preferential votes
in the district.
in the
Yeah.
district in the district is
the
good
district.
enough for the people of Sri Lanka
So-
to have someone representing them in parliament?
So, Mr. Gami, why do we need courts at all? Why do we need
That is what I
judges?
say.
We can just go try everyone in the
you are
court of
asking
public
why,
opinion.
Why it's courts for
Any
the
convicted
Courts
murderer
courts are
can
there.
get the nomination.
The Court of Appeal is there.
Yeah.
Supreme Court is there.
Yeah.
Why this man cannot entertain his fundamental right? It is a fundamental
He has
right
a
of a
right.
person.
He has a fundamental right to appeal.
It's
What
about
I'm saying is
yeah.
he has been convicted.
Convicted for the
It's
moment.
about, it's about
If
the
it is- if it
ethics
is
of the
wrong-
party.
if it is wrong,
It's about the
this
ethics
can
of
be
the
happen
party.
to you. This can be
Mr.
happen
Damini,
to me.
it's
This is the
innocent
way
until
this
proven
next
guilty.
5
After
years
you're
is
found
going
guilty.
to happen.
I'm not
Actually,
talking-
I would
This
like
is
to-
the
No,
way
no, no, no,
the
no. I'm not
arguments
talking-
are going to
I'm
build
not
in
talking
this
about
country
one
for next
individual.
5
This
years.
can be happen to anyone
Anything
in this
will be
country.
justified because
If
we are
someone-
having two-thirds.
But Mr.
No,
Gami,
Nadir.
Yeah.
I need to give an opportunity to Dr. Anil Jayant as well. Yes,
I would just-
Dr.
Yeah, I would like to also just comment about this mandate as well and this the discussion. It is a very clear fact that everyone knows and obvious that a clear mandate has been given. But even from this particular discussion, it is revealed the conflict of interest of all those parties. Actually, from general public point of view, they had so many aspirations. Now they don't have any hold because general public has casted their vote. Now the power is with them. If the government has the same objective or the same
Or
intention
dedication to deliver
Or
what
to-
they have promised.
to do what the general public wants, there wouldn't be any conflict. Now, from this discussion, it is very clear that they are trying to create their own power centers, sometimes individual power centers and regional power centers to come out with their own gains and benefits and not the aspiration of general public. But it is too early, as you said, to comment about this thing. So people are waiting. But if it is a responsible government, so government has to deliver what they have promised. Because they have not promised all these things. So they have promised better life, better education, better health services, and developed economy. Because as of now, lots of policies that you have adopted, like ad hoc policies with respect to central bank, governing money printing, control of imports and all these things, like one-sided economic policy. So if you take this thing as like a national comprehensive economic policy, it is going to be very dangerous.
but
That's what
Doctor-
I'm just telling.
but
And
doc-
one more thing, apart from these two parties, general public and the government, we should not forget the fact that at the same time, in a global context, big corporations and oligarchies are there well set and ready to put their bearings in countries like us. For example, MCC.
Exactly.
So, AXA and SOFA have been already set. There are instances in some countries, these agreements like these legal agreements were signed after signing MCC. But in Sri Lanka, these two agreements were signed before MCC. So I'm trying to tell you, oligarchies and these big corporations and those government support may have their own objectives and aspirations, but they are totally different from the aspiration of general public.
Dr. Jayanta, I mean, the political hypocrisy that you're talking about, the people of this country have had plenty of experience with it, whether
Yes,
it's from the United National Party,
Of course.
the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, or the SLPP, or this thing. But it's quite funny that the Jatika Jana Balawegaya now is talking about, financial transparency and accountability and the need for all that, when not a single candidate from the NPP came forward to make their asset declarations public. There were only a handful anyway of candidates
No,
who
we
had
have
done
declared like asset declaration, right?
submitted to the election commission but made it public. Not a single candidate from the NPP made it public.
Yeah, if it is
You had a
required,
few.
we can
There
do
were
this
a few.
because, like,
There were a few
there is
candidates
no need
from
as
other.
much go into the.
But that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You can't claim to be the progressive force and then be willing
Maybe that is an opinion.
to only do the legal minimum.
No. So legal minimum. So if it is
You're-
real
so
need,
it's like
as of
you're
now,
saying we need to
I think
change
that
the
is not
system.
the discussion. Like if we want, I
But
can
doctor,
declare
this is
my
the message.
assets.
They
Dr.
have
Jayanta,
nothing
this is the
problem.
message
Yeah,
that you're
because
giving the
everybody
people.
is implied by the
The message that you're giving.
Everyone.
But
Yeah.
the NPP is the party that's claiming to be the progressive force. These
Yeah.
guys aren't claiming to be the progressive force.
Right.
They know exactly what they are, and the
Right.
people also know what they are.
Right.
If you're claiming to be the progressive force, then
If
you
there is
must
such
have
a
the
need,
fundamentals of
if there is
progressivism.
such a need, we can do this thing. But as of now, so what we did was what was required by the law and
Simply-
order.
But see,
so
you're willing
we
to
don't-
do the
yeah,
legal minimum and
I mean,
leave it at
simply,
Yeah, that is
No, but
simply-
nothing,
they have nothing
but
to
nothing,
declare.
very fair.
Prioritize
That's not,
the process
a,
of
that's
now.
not a legal requirement as such.
Yeah.
No, the legal
the-
minimum is to submit to the
That is
election
true,
commission.
and they have
I'm
done
not
That is-
disputing that you
yeah,
haven't
I
done that.
agree with you. If that is the need of the
Yeah.
hour at this time, so
So
we
they
can
can
do
always-
this because
yeah,
we don't
so
have
it's like-
anything to.
So let's
That's what
let's
I'm
move
telling.
on. Let's move on. Speaking about
Shamir,
democracy.
And
I mean,
one-
I was really enjoying Mr. Gamini Bera's commit and the way he presented this Ratnapura case with Premalal Jayasekar. And I think, I mean, for next 5 years, we will see the same sort of argument, justifying everything as saying, the people has voted us. People have voted with our president. People has voted with the 2/3, and we can do whatever we want. And it has happened with justifying the Ratnapura Premalal Jayasekara's the convicted murder case, and that will definitely
I think this is
continue with
incorrect.
each and
He has
every-
already made the appeal, and now he has the he has the
person who was
presumption of
convicted
innocence
for 2
until
years
proven
cannot
guilty
sit in the
or
parliament, but the convicted
confirmed by
convicted murderer can
that's
sit
wrong.
in the parliament.
I'm
I
not
don't
concerned
think
about
I
Mr.
mean,
Premalal
I mean,
Jayasekara. Whoever it is, he has the prime
the
objective.
leadership. I mean,
right.
all these
But I
political
just want to-
parties
I just want
signed
to-
the
this
March
is some-
12th
He's
declaration.
to twist the matter.
Just some,
twist the matter.
just some housekeeping. We won't take responsibility for the statements that the three gentlemen and the lady would be making today on Face the Nation. So the three gentlemen and the lady will have to take full responsibility for the statement.
Definitely, everyone knows
You know,
Premalal
you know,
Jayasekara,
the problem is this:
what happened
they cannot
with
understand
issue
the
and how
legal
it's
system of this
successful.
country. The power to the courts coming from the people, people's mandates in the parliament and the executive and the court system, judiciary.
Kirti, I want to ask you a question before I move to Dr. Ajanta. A very quick question, because you've been a political analyst, you've been attached to the campaign for free and fair election as the executive director for some time as well. Now we see individuals like Prasanna Ranavira being selected from the Gampa district, and we saw him very clearly throwing chili powder at his colleagues in parliament. Then Dilum Amunugama from the Canning district topped the list from the SLPP as well, was one of the individuals who topped the list from the SLPP.
Our good friend Sanath Nishanta from Puttalam.
From Sanath Nishanta from Puttalam. So we saw all these individuals creating havoc, wreaking havoc in Parliament during the 52-day government, and still for all, people did go and vote for these people, and individuals like Sunil Handunatti was left out of the Parliament. What was the thinking of the people?
Yeah, that's. I mean, here, to be fair to all the voters and the political parties and the elected members, the people have voted for them. I mean, people have voted for them, ignoring the March 12. The March 12 movements, request, the people who has campaigned for the good governance, people who canvassed against the political violence. I mean, all these concepts were let down, and all these people were most of the time topped at the preferential votes. So here, the real issue, I think, is with the voters, the voter education, the people, the behavior of the voter has to be a part of the problem what we are having.
So in 1910, the Donamo governor at that time said there are two reasons why he does not want to give the people the voting right, and one of them is the fact that there will be a family rule in Sri Lanka time to come. So 110 years after, we have a family rule in Sri Lanka at present. And the other reason is the people won't have the knowledge to choose their public representatives in a country like Sri Lanka. Seems like what Donamo said in 1910 has now become a reality in Sri Lanka, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean,
definitely.
If my memory is correct, 63 representatives has 33 representatives were elected from a single school, the Royal College of the Royal College here alone. And see, I mean, the same the numbers might be less, but it is same with the Anand College. So the privileged people, I mean, Aluvihares in Matale was defeated in an election after 42 long years. And what the Donamar Commission report said at 1910 is quite right in that.
So I want
to respond to that. Basically, now during this particular election period, there were two parties that came and spoke to the people. Now, the Podujana Peramuna, they came, the president himself walked around the people regardless of the COVID-19 instructions about 1 meter distances and so on. He went around and he told the people, look, I have become the president, I have something to perform, so make sure you give me the votes, because I want to have the 2/3 majority and do my best. So when people heard that, their emotions were involved and they felt, okay, he's asking for something, okay, he needs to be given the opportunity to do that, so they voted for him.
That is not wrong.
Sorry?
That's not wrong.
That's not, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying how people respond. Then it came to Mr. Sajid Premadasa, went around and told people, look, I have come off UNP, I'm a very young person compared to the leader, and therefore I can perform well. And not only that, I'm willing to give you 20,000 rupees as you're able for a living. And so people felt, my goodness, 20,000 rupees per month, that's a great amount of money, which we never received. And so people said, yeah, let's vote for him. So today, in Sri Lanka, what is really used is the emotions. People are led by the emotions. People go and promise people things and try to grab the very best. Why do
people vote for the UNP if that's the case?
The UNP went, we talked about the economy. We were not promising people anything fancy.
No, they did.
We were talking. We spoke.
10,000 rupees to be
we
given
have already
to those
given the
affected by
10,000
COVID-19.
rupees. Last time we have already given that 10,000 rupees.
10,000 rupees for those affected by COVID-19.
Yeah, we said 10,000 rupees for income generation. That is, if you are having a self-employment and you want some assistance in order for you to enhance your self-employment, we will definitely definitely provide you with 10,000. But we never said we'll give you 10,000. You can buy your bread and butter.
Dr. Ajant,
We didn't say that.
One thing I
factually
must-
correct one particular sentence which Dr. Ajanta said. I mean, when it comes to the media, I mean, it is. I mean, what we experienced. I am quoting here the Ethikai report on media, July 6 to 30th, and it was SLPP. The Podujana Peramuna was given the highest amount when it comes to the national Jatika Rupahini and ITN, of course, and then the next was given not to the our party or the JVP for that matter, and TNA was not given even a minute down there. The UNP was given time. So when you are saying the UNP was not given opportunities, I mean, just take the Rupahini and ITN. The Rupahini ITN actually did the campaign for the UNP, not for us. They put
No, I
all the
didn't
blame
say
on
that.
us.
Now,
I
coming
didn't
back
say
to
that.
your
The campaigning
question.
was restricted
I
to
didn't say
the
that.
Sajid Premadas's party and the JVP.
Yeah, Gamini.
And the
Coming
TNA.
back to your
Yeah,
point, now we are talking about Donamo Commission and also the voting rights of the people of this country. So if we propose today, it is not proper to give the people of this country to vote, since the people are not that much educated, or they are
No, this is what the Donamo Commission.
yeah, I know. If we
So
think
don't try to make a
that
parallel
way
between
around
1910
today,
to 1920,
I think that is
2020.
completely, it's very serious matter, because democracy, what my friend talk about today, democracy is that we have to go forward, not to the back. Even though Donamo thought so, that is not the case. We have to give the maximum democracy in our country.
thank you, Gamin. On the subject of democracy, Dr. Ajanta Pereira, I'm glad to see that the defeat of the UNP has not discouraged you from participating in the political process, and I hope you will continue to do so. One of the key issues ahead of that was being discussed ahead of this election was the subject of women's participation. Over the last three parliaments, from the 7th to now we're at the 9th parliament, if I'm not mistaken. In the 7th parliament, there were 13 female representatives across all the different political parties. In the 8th parliament, there were 12, and now in the 9th parliament, there are 11. So it seems to be gradually decreasing. I want to talk to you about your specific political journey. Where are you going to go from here? Because you did manage to garner around 30,000 votes or so at the presidential election. From here, we have provincial council elections coming up, and then thereafter local government elections, local government authority elections not too far away. Do you see your political journey continuing with the United National Party?
For sure. We have already
But
developed.
do your principles align with the ideology and the principles of the United National Party and its leadership? Because at least the perception is that Mr. Wickremesinghe and most of the top leadership of the UNP have a rather neoliberal outlook when it comes to their policies on economics. From your presidential campaign, if I recall right, during your statement at the presidential debate organized by the March 12th movement, you seem to be more inclined towards a left-leaning, socialist, almost economic doctrine. This is diametrically opposed to the position of the UNP. Do you have a future within that kind of structure?
Yes.
Or do you see a better future within a more leftist aligned party
No.
like the JJ?
I have specifically chosen the United National Party based on their foundation. This is the equal rights for all ethnicities, and this is one of the most key things that we need when we want to build a better society. Then the second thing is, now when we are talking about the fishing community, when we are talking about the laborers, when we are talking about the people, the farming community, one of the important things is that their voice needs to be inside the policy matters. You know, they need to be heard with inside the policy. This is why I am also a little bit sad that I could not make it to the parliament, because one of the key things that I really wanted to achieve was to ensure that the voice of the fisher folk is in the fishing policies, the voice of the laborers are in the labor policy. This needs to be addressed, and that's how you really change, you know, the movement
So what
of
will
the
you
country.
do now to make
Right.
that happen?
Next time you can join us, our party, and you can get re-elected for sure.
I know that, and I say,
And we need people in your caliber for sure, and there's the open doors are open if you are having that.
I want-
all right, I just want to let me answer.
we are
Let
coming
me
to
answer.
you.
your
Very
question.
open.
We let
I need
Dr.
to
Ajanta
answer.
finish. Thank you.
Okay, we've already started, because you know, the UNP have always stood by having more women in the provincial councils and in the Pradesh Sabha. So what we are trying to do now is to groom them, because you see, you cannot just put a woman and say do
But Dr.
politics.
Ajanta,
You need
most
to
of
groom
those
them.
women have defected from the UNP and have joined the Samagi Jana Balawege.
Yeah, but that's not because they are women. They have joined it because maybe they have been given more incentives in there. So
I mean,
basically,
What's the
So
intention? All the
basically-
government was providing all the intentions to
All right.
Ranil Wickremesinghe and his people, his supporters. Goal. I mean, let me factually correct on this. I mean, the time allocation in Rupawahini and the ITN was to us was equal to 6 members from Vajirabe Wadana, Palita Range Bandara, this Navin Disanayaka, Ravi Karunanayake, and the Daya Gamage was equal. The 6 people were given equal airtime to us. Both Samagi Jana Balawege, JVP plus
no,
the
but
other
even
political
during the presidential election, the ITN and the Rupavahini, they did give us opportunities for us to speak for
No, that's the
15 minutes, and that
that's
was
the
an
allocated time,
allocation
no?
that was given.
No,
Even I was given that
Dr. Ajanta, very
allocation.
quickly, because Nadeem asked about your future in politics, I want to pose a very quick question to you about the past as well. So at the last presidential election, you were able to gain just above 35,000 votes at the last presidential election. And in the Colombo district, the UNP was only able to gain 30,000 votes at the last general election. Do you think you contested from the wrong party?
No, actually, no, I have not, because the basic, you see, the UNPs, apart from the fact that they have broken off and there was a bit of a chaos, and they were actually saying
No, it
that
was not broken off.
they
The
were
United
actually
National
saying that we
Party,
were having a
Central
pact with the government. In fact, they were having a pact with the government, and they pretended that we were having a pact with the government, and they went and
Everyone
spread
knows that.
false
Everyone knows
rumors
it.
all over the place. And then they said you can put a cross in front of the telephone that would almost equal to putting a cross in front of the elephant. So many stories were going on. It's okay, that's all right.
No, but I
you know,
have
the
not
thing
heard that
is,
story, Dr.
no,
Ajanta.
what I really
Come
want to
on.
say is this: we know exactly where we've gone wrong. Because you see, when we were campaigning, one of the things that people were really requesting the UNPS was, they really want us to come down to their level, at the grassroots level, to work with them and to enhance their capabilities. And also they felt that they have not received so many benefits of being a UNPer for the last few years, and therefore their grievances were there. And we did not have enough time to sort those out, and so we are now ready, because we know what their cares
But
are.
I'm still surprised to hear that you still think that Ranil Wickremesinghe is a leader who could lead the UNP.
You
even
see,
now.
you know, a leader
That
by
I'm surprised,
himself,
Dr. Ajanta.
a
I need to be very honest with you.
leader by himself cannot run a whole party. You need to have a very good set of people
But
who
a
are
leader
very
can
good
destroy a political
supporters.
party.
And I
Although
think
Dr.
you will
Ajanta
see
is
that.
party of one
A single man can destroy a political party, and that's why Ranil Wickremesinghe has
I
fought
think
for the last.
she must
Actually,
know that
I have a quick
he has
question for
already
Dr. Anil Jayanta.
he has already withdrawn from his leadership.
I mean, 6 times
No,
in
not
that
yet.
caliber. I mean,
Not yet.
let
Not
me-
yet. He has
in,
not.
in 1999, after the presidential election, Ranil Wickremesinghe said, "Give me 1 month, I will resign from the party." In 2004, after Chandrika Kumar Tunga has done the withdrawing, the throwing away the Ranil Wickremesinghe, he said. And just after 2005, the same thing repeated. That time he only asked for 2 weeks, right? And in 2010, once again the pressure was on. Then he said, give me 1 month, I'll do. When the 2012, then the leadership council was established, and the leadership council, 3 particular meetings, Ranil Wickremesinghe said, give me 2 weeks, I will step down. And 2015, right, he said, I mean, when the other people were asking.
But you were,
Today,
you were
today
with
that
him.
is announced.
You
Today
were
that
with
is
him.
No, I mean, this
No,
sort
no,
of
no, you were
announcement
with
has
him.
happened for 6 times.
No,
No, but you were with him
that is
up
by
to
the
now.
secretary.
You were with
That
him
is
up
by
to
the
now.
secretary.
And then he even allowed Mr. Sajid Premadasa to go ahead and be the presidential candidate. But he
did
lost
it
as well.
2010
But
because
he
he knew
lost.
definitely he's going to lose. He allowed Maithripala Sirisena 2015 because he knew he's going
Yeah, I
to
want to
defeat.
say- I have
And
a
he
quick question.
allowed 2019 because he definitely knew
Okay. So,
that he's going
Kirti's position, the Kirti's position is you'll see it, you will believe it when you see it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have-
next Wednesday, I mean, just 30 seconds, give me. Next Wednesday, he will appoint another committee and wait for another 2 weeks. The history will repeat for the 7th time.
Okay. Dr. Anijanta, we were talking about women's representation with Dr. Ajanta Pereira, who was here a little while. Now, the Jatika Jana Balawega is trying to position itself as the progressive force. You've won 2 seats, one in the Gampara district, one in the Colombo district, and you have 1 nationalist seat. Will the Jatika Jana Balawega allocate that seat for a woman candidate?
Yes, of course, actually, we open the doors and forum for women to come forward for politics, but there is little like reluctance in Sri Lankan context, as so everyone is aware of this thing. It is not simply because of just giving a chance for women, but the nationalist, the slot is given to someone
Who is on the national list?
Yeah, from our national list, based on the consent of all the parties, because we have 28 organizations, so the executive committee met even today. And yes, of course, we have taken a decision now to propose one of our candidates in the list, Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, as the national list representative. But still, like, she has not accepted it. Like, I do not know what's going on already. So by that time, she may have accepted. I do not know. As of now,
there are procedures with
yeah. As of now, the committee has taken a decision to
Didn't
propose.
Harini didn't Harini know about her commitment towards her academic career before being nominated to the national list?
I think so. I think so. She must be. Actually, I can't really answer on behalf of her.
That's a
but
great-
actually, we
Samaki
all.
Jana Balawega,
all-
I mean, I know your question. Samaki Jana Balawega will allow at least one the representative, female representation.
I have
let
something
me
very
finish.
interesting to
I
say.
hope the UNP will do the same.
I have something very interesting to say. When you look at the ministries that have been assigned, there is no ministry for women and children.
No, that is there. That is there.
There is
State
no ministry for
State
women and children.
State ministry
No,
is
have
there.
a
It's
look
not a
at- have a
cabinet
look
We
at
can
the
take up
list.
all these things
Have
later.
a
Like
look
just
at the list.
answering to your question, yes, of course. In a way, we need to admit the fact that, like, in now democratic administration, ruling, and all these things, of course, if we can give opportunities for all representation, that is really good. And even the research has found when we have balanced governance, to great extent, it would improve the efficiency and
Anujata.
all those things. So, and just answering to your question, actually, I think Harini is aware of their responsibilities of becoming an MP and the things that she was
So,
just doing
anyway,
as
Dr.
an
Anil,
academic.
yeah, Dr. Anil, when we're speaking about leadership of the political parties in play, we should not forget the fact that during Andukumar Dissanayaka's time as a leader of the JVP, the voter percentage has has deteriorated immensely of the JVP as well. So does that mean that Andukumar Dissanayaka should also step down as the leader of the JVP and give someone else to take over the helm of the party?
Okay, what is apparent, I mean, when compared to other political parties and the movements, JVP, I can't totally talk about JVP prior to NP, the forming NPP or Jatika Janabalavege, but within Jatika Janabalavege, and so our structure, JVP and NPP, the Jatika Janabalavege, it's not the respect, like in our organization, so overall responsibility has not been given to a particular leader. The traditional model of leader who just takes the entire party or entire movement is not there in our movement. Actually, leadership is like leader has been assigned specific tasks. Actually, he has been doing his task to the utmost trust and fulfillment and sacrifice. So they have a trust in his leadership from our experience during a short period of time, maybe 3 to 4 years time, how he has been like. But due to other dynamics in politics and the prevailing conditions and context have pulled it back to some extent. But I don't think that it is the time just change of leadership, because we think as a team.
But Dr. Anil Jayanta,
Yeah.
the need of the hour as far as this election was concerned was
Right.
a fresh of breath air
Yeah.
in the parliament. And unfortunately, professionals' names were coming into play, like the SLPP, the Viatmaga movement. We
Right.
see at least around 9 to 10 members from the Viatmaga movement being elected to parliament. When it came to the
National.
JJB,
Yeah.
for an example, we're talking about professionals as well, people who are educated, but only Andukumar Disanayaka and Vijita Herat was able to secure seats in parliament. They are former members of the JVP,
Yeah.
and no new professional had an opportunity to come into parliament through the professional movement of the JJB. Why is that?
So that's what, like, we need to find the information, but we, like, this is what the mandate given to us. So I mean, actually we also contested, so we feel that professionals from all the districts as well, but mandates has not been given to us.
No,
But,
I mean,
like, one thing, like, so what is the real reason? We need to find more facts. That is what, just as told you earlier, there could be many reasons. Maybe as of now, they might think that we are not the better option to change this thing. So they may think that this present government can deliver what they want. Or as I just told you, politically to great extent, so they could be deceived. So there is something, the writing literacy and political literacy and financial literacy. In Sri Lankan context, to great extent, the financial literacy and political literacy were far below the accepted levels. So gap between political literacy and financial literacy, writing literacy and political literacy is very high. And we need to do lots of work and work hard, and our sacrifice, dedication might change in future. And once the people would realize that the government would not be able to deliver what they promised, of course they would realize. It would be a matter of time. I say, if you take the evolution of these societies, so things did not change over time. Some changes, the positive changes in this world, so world which has 13.5 billion years, had changed over a million years time. But nowadays, due to the changes in technology and other things, some changes would take within a short period of time. We believe that as of now, the present political and economic system is disastrous. Let's
talk
that
about-
really creates only handful of rich at the expense of large. The gap between rich and poor is expanding, widening. That creates so many social issues.
So,
somewhere
Kirti-
down the line,
Yeah.
people would realize that we need to change it. Then,
Kirti-
of course, they would join hands with us.
Kirti, interestingly, people wanted a fresh of breath air a breath of fresh air in Parliament, and unfortunately, the SJB was not able to do that in Parliament. If you look at the 54 members, at least those who have been elected are from the old guard. They were members who were in Parliament, predominantly who were in the old Parliament. So there is no new face in Parliament as far as the SJB is concerned.
I think, we very clearly knew with this present electoral system, the known people, the experienced people, the people the names were moving around the communities in a manner is having a definite advantage. And the numbers were lowered, and definitely that was the reason the old faces were masters or the majoritized in Samagi Jana Balaweke. Adding to that, what happened with Sunil Handuneti, the champion of 2015 to 2020 Parliament. The way he behaved with the COP and the committees, the role he played, especially on the bond commission and all that. It's very sad to realize that the people has not given the due recognition, the due respect for the role what some of the parliamentarians. I'm not just narrowing it to Sunil Hadunnethi, that particular thing. It has happened with so many parliamentarians, but the classic example is Sunil Hadunnethi, the champion of the previous parliament.
But Kirti, when you said maybe if he had made his asset declaration public, he would have gotten an extra 1,200 votes to get into Parliament.
No,
He didn't do it.
No, that's a very subjective statement. You can't say that. Anyway, Kirti, I just want to get into bolts and nuts of the national list of the SJB right now.
The final decision will be done tomorrow, and the preliminary discussions.
Give us a hint as to.
No, but we are making the decision tomorrow. Almost the decisions were made, but we are a coalition, and we were to consult. We want to let the party leaders know about this, and then we will publish it tomorrow.
Individuals
it will be handed over to the
Ranjit Madhva Bandara would be in.
Sorry?
Ranjit Madhva Bandara would be in from.
I don't want to comment. I don't want to comment because the party leaders will be the first one who will be finalizing it tomorrow.
Will the minority parties like the SLMC and
I don't
the
want to
SCMC
comment.
No, would
Sorry,
they
no
get a
comment.
seat? Would they get a seat from?
No
national
comments. There will be women participation. That's the only thing what I.
There will be a female representation as well.
Definitely, yes.
Okay. So now on the 12th, that's 2 days from now.
Yes.
A new cabinet will come into play. Give us a hint as to who will be taking over oaths as members of the cabinet. Who do you think? I know you don't have a crystal ball in front of you. Only the Prime Minister and the President would be privy to that information. But who do you think should be in the cabinet?
I must say very clearly, what you think is my choice. Because you know better than me, because you are talking to everybody in this political arena, and you are the best person to choose the cabinet, but not me.
If I only
There
knew,
will be two allocated positions for the who was willing to join hands.
Gamini, just before I go into the final round, I want to pose a question to you about democracy, media freedom, and also freedom of association. We saw during COVID-19 how the frontline Socialist Party supporters were arrested by the police. Definitely there was no freedom of association at that time. Media freedom has predominantly been violated. There was a self-imposed censorship subsequent to 2009 in Sri Lanka. And also democracy. This is not what I am saying, but the world is saying that was violated by the Rajapaksa regime at that time. And then we only had Mahinda Rajapaksa as the president, and the Prime Minister was someone else. But now the combo is President Rajapaksa, Prime Minister Rajapaksa as well. So shouldn't this worry the people?
Not at all.
And why not?
Because the theme is different. Now, as I earlier told you, during the last 8 months, there is no any complaint except that matter where the people who were in the Lipton circle. That is the only issue that has been taken place about the freedom of association, and that is also looked into by the directions of the President and the Secretary of the Defense. There is a court case, and also there are some investigation by the police acting IGP, and there is nothing that has tempered the democracy of this country in respect of the association. Then there is no any issues. I think he will vouch on this. Mr. Keith Tennakoon will vouch on this. There is no any problem for the democracy as such, and no freedom of speech violation, no freedom of association violation. So that has to be gone through, because the leadership, with the leadership of Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president, and also with the leadership of the political aspect, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, I think that will be intact throughout.
Gamini, can I say the pack has been shuffled, but the jokers remain the same? Would I say that?
No way. That is a per se that you can say only for the card pack.
Anyway, Dr. Ajanta, before we move to the final round, a humiliating defeat for the UNP this time around as far as elections are concerned. Do you feel that there needs to be a change in leadership at least now? Forget about the fact that Akhil Viraj Karyavasam said that 4 individuals are vying for the top spot. But what is your opinion? You just joined the UNP, and you may have, as Nadeem correctly pointed out, you may have a political career with the UNP in the years to come. Do you think that the UNP leadership should change?
Well, basically, if you really look at the results, it's not Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe who failed, who lost, but rather the whole of UNP, which means there is a common factor that is actually has caused this situation. So, and also it's a known factor because of the division between a good chunk of the people having moved. So I think we know what the problems are with inside the UNP, we know how to handle it now, and we are of the very good spirit to know that we can really manage that. And I think, defeat is a part and parcel of politics. You need to be able to take that defeat and move on and to make something much better. Because at the end of the day, it's about the people. Because what do people expect from us? Now, for example, I like to bring up one issue. 700,000 people cancelled their votes. And I had a look at some of the way that they have actually cancelled their votes. They have put across so many political parties so that they were not valid.
Yeah, but the point is, Dr. Ajanta, let's say that 700,000 votes went to the UNP.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's say that 700,000 votes also went to the UNP. They would have ended up with 900,000 votes.
No, I'm not just saying that. I'm just saying the mindset of the people right now in the country.
If Ranil Wickremesinghe was the visionary leader, if the people want him to be governing the party, then why not vote Ranil Wickremesinghe in to Parliament? They voted him out as well. He was only able to gain 30,000 votes in Colombo. The UNP as a whole was only able to gain 30,000 votes. And you are saying that UNP lost and not the leadership. I'm trying to figure it out.
Because the thing is, it happened all around, and if you really look at the statistics of it, we are really surprised because the numbers were the same, whether it's Central Colombo or whether it's Homagama, the numbers were the same. So we are really baffled. Even right now, the UNP is baffled as to how did it happen, how did that mechanism work, how did we do something wrong, or was it manipulated? still. There are a lot of questions asked. But at the end of the day, maybe within another few weeks, we will come to terms and we will understand exactly what happened. And knowing the desperation they had, we never know what exactly may have happened. I'm just saying it.
There was no
But,
desperation at all. Before the elections, we told the UNPs with a report that this is what going to happen. We said in that particular report, you will end up less than 3%. That is exactly what has ended. Let me quote what I have wrote on Gaul electorate. I said the JVP will receive more votes in Gaul electorate than the UNP. When everyone was questioning in our camp about the Gaul electorate alone. Let me say what that particular report says about Kuliapitia, the General Secretary Akila Viraj Karivasab's electorate. The report says before the elections, it will be 9%. Actually, it was 10% won in Kuliapitia, and I mean, they was not able to get more than 4% in any other electorates in Kurunegala. So, I mean, we were telling this, we were very boldly saying that you can get only 2% of the UNP votes. With the 98% of the votes will come with the Sajid Premadasa and 80 parliamentarians who were representing the previous elections. I mean, if Ranil Wickramasinghe and his 6, 7, 8 friends at the Sirikota cannot understand that basic logic, I mean, I cannot understand why they are called the intellectuals, the leaders, superior
all right,
leaders,
let me also answer your question.
and all that.
Because
the Ranil Wickramasinghe in 1994, after the election, in the parliamentary election, he received just finished.
We need to give it to
3.5 million votes.
Yeah.
After 25 long years, they have ended up in 300,000, less than 200,000.
That's your part of the story. That's your part of the story. But when we look at when we went around and when we were campaigning, people were so sure that they were not going to vote for you all. And but you to Sajid Premadasa and your group. And then you know what you did? You conducted a campaign where you actually misled the people. You were confusing the people. You misled the people.
So all the people
and eventually,
didn't understand. I mean,
no, look at if you
we were given the least amount of media space.
No.
I mean, on how we were debated.
So Kirti, I want to ask a question from Dr. Ajanda. Why do you think the UNP failed? Because I just got a message from a viewer who says that the UNP promised to apprehend those who were corrupt. The UNP promised put behind bars individuals who were corrupt, and they failed.
Exactly.
And why should people give them a mandate again if they have failed on the first instance?
But then who's on their side? That is also the UNPS who are on their side as well. So people could have also not failed them as well. But what I'm saying is basically.
But those who are corrupt, like individuals who were corrupt and who were embroiled with controversy, were left with the UNP, and Sajid Premadasa's camp had less amount of individuals.
The vocal people, respected people, educated people.
Yeah, but you need to give Dr. Ajanta an opportunity to
parliamentarians out of the previous elections.
You see, what they did was this is exactly how they spoke. This is exactly how they spoke. Nothing was proven regarding so many allegations there were. But you went around and you capitulated on that, and you went and told, you went and spoke to the people in that way. And also at the same time, you misled the people by saying that the elephant and the telephone are the same, and thereby even if you put a cross in front of the telephone, it'll be equal to giving a vote to the elephant. There were so many issues that you raised, and then eventually,
it's and the telephone is the same.
Dear,
we said there's a huge difference between
the
same
group of people we were fighting over.
We said the ugly, the black is with the UNP, the pure white is with us. the people.
You were asking for votes from the same group of people as we were asking for the votes. It's true.
No, the UN,
same
Muslims have not
UNPS,
voted with
same
you. The Tamils
UNPS.
has not voted with you. The southern part of the country has not voted
At
with
least
you.
we,
The Tamils
at
were not
least we
voted with you.
conducted a very decent campaign. And I want to tell you one
I
thing.
mean, what-
One last thing. When Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe met with the Colombo district candidates, you know what he told us very specifically? He said, don't say a single word against Mr. Sajid Premadasa. He said very specifically, he said, don't say a single word
Because there's
against a
nothing he can
telephone.
say on
You know
Sajid
why? He said,
Sajid
let us
Premadasa
conduct
or
a
the-
very
his candidates.
decent
There's nothing he can
election.
say.
That
I
was
mean,
his,
is it
he
the same
said
with-
that.
is
He
it the
said,
same
let
with,
us
Ravi
conduct
Karunanayake
a
or the
very
Daya
decent
Gamage?
election. And that's why we never on any single platform said anything against your party. And that's how you escaped. And
No.
we may have had a
You had a
difficulty,
wrong, the
but you
UNP had a
escaped because we
simple,
did
wrong
not.
calculation. They thought
we conducted
that
a very fair
traditional
election.
Dr.
UNPs will
Anil, Dr.
stick
Anil,
with the
when you look at the SJB and the UNP now fighting on this very
No,
platform.
we are not fighting. We finished the fight and we have already started discussions
Are you
with
not
the
glad
remaining
only
of the
one
UNP.
political party
I'm
was
so
able to-
sure when it comes to the local elections, everyone is with us. There won't be a vote. There's no UNP. I mean, coming from 3.5 to 300,000. I mean, less than 300,000. I mean, is there any UNP? Is there UNP
There
values?
is.
No.
You will be surprised.
I didn't get what you said even. I didn't hear.
I am the one
No,
who
Dr.
wrote a
Anil,
book on UNP. I am
anyway,
the one who studied on UNP. So, I mean.
Right, so let's move on to the final rounds. What I'm going to
that
do
means.
is I'm going to go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll have the final round. I won't pose a question to the panelists, but you can wrap and rebut your points that you are brought forward by each speaker, but do not bring in new arguments during the final round. So we're going for a short commercial break. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We are talking about post-general election, how the situation would be in the next few years. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. We will be right back.